podcast. This is German coming to you on this Monday night edition of the podcast, where today I want to talk to you about the Super Bowl that was yesterday and the recap of it, and want to go through some NFL just observations to look for into as we head into what's going to be the off season. And then in the off season, you get, whatever it's the quarterback controversies, the draft, so on and so forth. So it's going to be the recap and just some things to look for in the off season, as well as a Champions League. The Champions League returns tomorrow, and I want to do a little preview of some of the games, some of the big games that we're going to see over the next 2 days. And obviously none bigger than PSG versus Real Madrid, versus Messi versus Real Madrid again, Mbappe versus his hopefully new team in the summer. And we're obviously not going to get the matchup of Sergio Ramos going up against Real Madrid this time, but we'll do that whole preview after the Super Bowl recap. Let's start with the Super Bowl. We had Super Bowl 56 yesterday live from Los Angeles, and where we saw, I don't know if it was I don't think it was a great game. It was a close game for sure. And I think one of the things that's being thrown out, and one of the things that gets thrown out a lot during close games, is that it's a good game. And the assumption always is a close game equals a good game. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think just because a game is close, it's good. And yesterday's Super Bowl, and I know a lot of what I'm going to say about this game is going to be taken from the standpoint of maybe I'm a hater, I'm salty. And I will, in full disclosure, I was super bummed out watching the Super Bowl yesterday, just because it was so hard as a 49er fan not to think that, man, we should have been in that game. That should have been us. And the last time I felt like this was when the Seahawks played the Broncos and they completely dismantled them in that Super Bowl. That's the last time I felt like that, because I felt the same way. Man, that should have been us. We should have been in that game. And ironically, I didn't feel that way about the Giants' loss, and probably because I felt like it was the beginning of something, and I felt like it was a good benchmark for that team. And for some reason, I didn't feel that heading into that Super Bowl. But yesterday, we had a game that was close throughout. It was a game that the Rams started off in the first drive looking unstoppable. We obviously knew about the defensive troubles for the Bengals and just everything that they were going to have to endure if they were going to beat this Rams team. But it started out fast in terms of the first drive, and you had everything clicking for the Rams in that first one, capped off by Odell's touchdown, and it just felt like one of those, oh man, here we go. This is going to be the coronation for the Rams. This is going to be Odell's, complete middle finger game to all the critics, everyone that said he was just a diva. He's able to come into LA and buy into, the culture, the teammates, everything. We're going to get just a complete love fest for what's Donald, what's Stafford, Cooper Kupp, obviously. And it just felt like from the first drive, it felt like it was going to be a blowout game where we just are crowning the Rams. And it didn't turn out that way. The Bengals got to a slow start. The Rams scored again, but this time they couldn't make the field goal, which betting wise, I think it turned out to be a big deal. If you ended up getting the Rams plus 3.5 or so, I think, obviously in the adjusted bets and the adjusted lines, I mean, it's probably screwed you over. But then we saw the Bengals get some momentum. We saw the Bengals make some plays. We saw them towards the end. The Bengals were kind of running really well against this Rams team. And they go into the half, they come back, and they get that touchdown that obviously shouldn't have been a touchdown because of the offensive pass interference on Ramsey, but that's neither here nor there. And obviously we're able to say that because the Rams went on to win the game. But big throw, and at that moment you felt like, oh man, it might be Cincinnati's year. This might be it. And then they became just they kind of just stood still. The offense has stopped, and the game began to drag on. It was a close game, but it wasn't this intensity. You couldn't feel the magnitude of the moment as in other, like in other Super Bowls. And it felt, I tweeted out just after the last score, where for a while it was 20-16, and I tweeted out, it feels like the next team to score is going to win this game. And I said that like in the third quarter or so, and surely enough, the Rams score. They get the touchdown late, and that turned out to be the game winner. Some notes from the game. In the first half, the Rams defensive line didn't get much pressure on Burrow. I think he was sacked like once in the first half. In the second half, they went crazy, and they were able to get in and kind of take advantage of the matchup that we all thought they were going to be able to take advantage of. And it seemed like everything changed on the play where Aaron Donald hits Burrow as Burrow's going to the sideline. He hits him. They get in his face, and it seemed like the game flipped from there. It seemed like Donald, from that point forward, became a man unstoppable. He got 2 sacks, and he was all over that field. He wreaked havoc for everyone, and I feel like he should have won MVP. I get why Kupp won it because he had an amazing fourth quarter, but I feel like what Donald did on defense really set the tone and really kept the Rams in the game, because that offense had nothing. That offense wasn't able to do much against the Bengals up until the last drive in the fourth quarter. And so it was such an interesting game to see, because we all kind of wanted it to be. We all wanted this game to be great. And it just didn't live up to the billing. I don't think. And obviously if you disagree, and if you disagree for real, not if you're a Rams fan who says, "Oh, we won the title." Obviously, if you're a Rams fan, you care less how exciting the game was, and I totally understand it. But for those that are saying this was a great game, I don't know. I have my reservations about that. But the Rams won. I think the right team won. They were clearly the better team. They were better prepared, I think, as the game went on. It became one of those games where Stafford was able to just get the ball to Kupp in the fourth quarter, and McVay was able to just dial up the plays that was getting Kupp the ball. And that's, at the end of the day, at the end of these big games, you want your stars to have the ball in their hands. And that's what happened. And on the other side, I feel like Taylor and that offense kind of fell apart. I feel like Burrow and that team just completely fell apart in putting the Rams away. They couldn't put them away. And not because the Rams were, obviously they were getting to quarterback, but it just the execution wasn't there. And it just seemed very, it just, as the game wore on, it just felt like, man, like the Rams are in this game, and the Bengals are not able to put them away, are not able to just slam the door shut, because the Rams were there begging to be put away, begging. They couldn't get the run going. Stafford was erratic, and they just were begging to be put away, and the Bengals wouldn't do it, and they lost, and they ended up getting beat. And so the Rams win. and it's a celebration. And, the whole thing with McVay is, that came out during Super Bowl week was that he was going to retire because he wanted to go into the booth. He said no. That was his response to that. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, Stafford is now viewed in a different light because of what he won. And the thing that always happens, whenever a team loses the Super Bowl, is the conversation is these guys will be back, and this team will be back. And having, I've rooted for the 49ers a long time, and I've rooted for them after 2 Super Bowl losses. And one of the things that happens after Super Bowl losses is that the next year is tough. It's tough to come back from that. And usually teams have a sluggish start after losing the Super Bowl. And I look at the Bengals and I think, man, could this have been their chance? Obviously, we look at sports and, I had a pod with David last week talking about the greatness of Tom Brady and how it's unfair to compare anybody to Tom Brady. But because of Tom Brady, and even, to do another example in a sport, because of LeBron James and all the times he was in the finals, we kind of assume the great ones are going to get to finals over and over and over again. When the reality is that these guys are an anomaly. What Brady and what LeBron were able to do to get to so many, Super Bowls or NBA finals is that's rare. That doesn't happen a lot. And I think before we are penciling in Burrow for another 2-3 Super Bowls, let's pump the brakes a little, because let's look at that team. That team isn't built correctly. That team needs to restructure that offensive line. That defense needs a lot of help. And that just doesn't happen in one off season. That's not a thing that you're able to fix just one season away, because it's not like you just need one player. You need multiple players to fix the offensive line. You need multiple players on defense to fix that defense. And we got to ask ourselves, is the AFC going to get worse? And you go down the line, the Bengals, some, could say they played the Chiefs and they got lucky. They were down 20-3, and we still don't know to this day what happened to Mahomes in that second half. He was a Ryan Tannehill dumb throwaway from being eliminated against the Titans. So you look at the teams in the AFC, we got to ask ourselves, are those teams going to get worse? And I don't think so. I don't think Kansas City is getting worse. I don't think the Bills are going to get worse. I don't think just go down the line. I don't think Baltimore is going to get worse. Baltimore had the year from hell this year. I don't think, with the structure, the infrastructure of that team, I think that team's going to be better next year. You look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was held back by Big Ben. You get in a guy who's even just average, that team is going to be a lot better. And, the Browns are still very feisty and competitive. So just in their division, I don't know if we can just pencil them in to win it, much less the AFC. And then, we still haven't gotten to the Pats, and we don't, and I'm sure they're going to continue to get better and improve. The whole Deshaun Watson, whatever he goes to Miami, whatever happens there, clearly he's going to be there. That team's going to be better. And then you go to the AFC West. Not only, we already talked about KC, but the Raiders, I believe, are going to be better. They're going to get, with Josh McDaniels. A lot of people don't like that. I think he's going to be a good coach. And I think he's going to be good for the Raiders. So I think the Raiders are going to get better next year. I think the Broncos are going to be better next year. So, and the Chargers with Justin Herbert, I just think for us to just have a conversation about the Bengals and say they're going to be in the Super Bowl, maybe. But I think that's a really hard thing to ask a team that hasn't been there yet enough times. So it doesn't have that pedigree, and the team that needs a lot of work in order to fix what's going on there. The Rams. The Rams are visionaries. You got to give Sean McVay and Lee Snead a lot of credit. This was a group of guys that put together a team in a very unconventional way for the NFL. The NFL is a league where you prioritize draft picks and you don't go all in ever on a one season. You do your best to have a winning team, but you also give yourself enough flexibility for draft picks and whatnot. And the Rams decided to take the NBA model, bring it to the NFL, and say, we're going to win now. We're not going to care about draft picks. We're going to trade away our first round and second round draft picks, and we're going to turn these picks into real commodities, real known guys. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go put our chips all in the middle of the table because we're trying to win now. And it worked. We can give them grief and make fun of them for the trades that they made for Jalen Ramsey. We can make fun of them for everything they gave up for Matthew Stafford. We can make fun of them for giving up the capital to get Von Miller. We can do that. But if we're going to do that, we also have to give them their flowers for winning and getting this thing right. Seattle did the same with Jamal Adams. They traded a few first-round picks to get him. And that was off the heels of what the Rams had done with Jalen Ramsey. And when it works, obviously, you win a title and it's worth it. When it doesn't, you are like the Seahawks and you're stuck in with a guy who you kind of don't know what to do with him because he can't really cover, and his only real and his value is in the rushing and stopping the run, but he's a safety. So you got to give those guys a lot of credit for what they were able to do. And in sports is all about copycat. So whatever works, another team is going to try to do it. That's why you're getting a lot of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, people getting hired. It's why it's just the way it goes. So this model is probably going to be people are probably going to try to replicate this, and it may not work. And they may at the ugliest stage, it will blow up in your face. And the Rams, with everything that they did, and obviously, it's well documented how much I hate this team. You got to give them a lot of credit for going all in and being willing to risk it all, to win it all. And it worked out for them. So let's do some off-season stuff. One of the things to look at heading into the off-season, I think the big story is going to be what Tom Brady does. Does Tom Brady indeed stay retired? Does he hang it up, or does he come back? And if he comes back, who and where does he want to play? For who does he want to play for? Obviously, I made my pitch to Tom Brady last week, asking him to come to San Francisco, and I think that's a real possibility. The 49ers have said they're going to trade Jimmy. They're going to try to trade him by March 16, and Jimmy's well aware of that. So, they're going to move him. For where and for what, it's yet to be determined, but he's going to be moved. So obviously Brady watch is going to be what dominates the news. Second thing is, what are the Packers going to do with Aaron Rodgers? The Packers already announced today this week that they were all in on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just won the MVP again. He's a 4-time MVP winner. And so what happens to Aaron Donald, another possibility for the 49ers. And the 49ers are in an interesting spot because they are linked to Rodgers and Brady, but also to Trey Lance. And it looks like Trey Lance is going to get the keys to this car. And I'm sure the Niners would be willing to sit him if you're able to bring in a Rodgers or a Brady to do what Sean McVay and the Rams just did and win now. So that's something to look for. The second thing, what is Pittsburgh going to do? Or the third thing, what is Pittsburgh going to do at quarterback? What's going to happen there? Are they going to go for a big name guy? Obviously, the draft picks for the quarterback in this draft are not that highly touted. So obviously, that's not something I don't see Pittsburgh trying to trade up or move up to get one of these guys in the draft. But I can see them going for Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, or another veteran quarterback. Maybe they put the chips all in and try to get Rodgers. Never know. And then we have to ask ourselves, what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? Is that situation going to get fixed? Where is he going to land? Obviously, obviously with the Brian Flores thing, I don't know what's going to happen there. And that's another thing to look for. How does that get solved? Does it just go away? We don't know. But where's Deshaun Watson going to land? Does he still go to Miami? Has that's been the favorite destination? But it seemed like all those things were linked to Brian Flores more so than it was to the Miami Dolphins as a franchise. So we'll see where all that lands. And finally, the retirements. Is Darnold going to retire? Is Sean McVay going to retire? And that's another thing to look for in the offseason of the NFL. So with that said, it was a great NFL season as always. It's always fun. It's always sad when the Super Bowl ends because, it's the end of football. And at least for the next 5 months, there will be a conversation about football. I'll definitely talk about football when the news and, when it times come to do it. Maybe I'll do a drafting and in preparation for the draft, and the cycle goes on and on and on, and free agency, so on and so forth. So I'm hoping my Niners are able to make some moves, are able to solidify the secondary, and are able to shore up. Again, it's well documented. I'm not a Trey Lance guy, so if we're able to get Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, sign me up immediately. Onto the Champions League. The champions, Real Madrid, PSG. Let me do just around the pitch, so to speak, and just to get the full scope of what what's awaiting us in the Champions League. Here we go. So we have games Tuesday and Wednesday. We have Tuesday, we have Sporting versus Man City in the round of 16. I think Man City should easily get through Sporting, should easily get through that first game in Portugal. So, I think that's pretty plain and simple. Inter versus Liverpool. Inter has been has had a resurgence in their league. And they're right now a point away versus Milan with a game. They still have a game pending, and so they win that. They go up to first place. So Inter has definitely made a big turnaround as a club, and so they get Liverpool in this matchup. Liverpool, who's getting guys healthy, who should have their full squad. I like Liverpool there. I just like the pedigree. I just like the experience. I think that is a great story. I just don't think they have the weapons to play and keep up with Liverpool over two legs. I just don't. And then the second game on Wednesday, RB Salzburg versus Bayern. Bayern, the German champs, the German giants, probably the game in pound for pound, borrowing a phrase from boxing, the scariest team in this competition. They're so well-rounded, so well-coached, so dominant. This is a team that have been very sluggish in their league. They got beat pretty bad this weekend, and so that I think that's doesn't sound great for Salzburg, as they're going to get a Bayern who was embarrassed 4-2 over the weekend. I think Bayern's just going to run through Salzburg over 2 legs, of course, and I think they'll move on. PSG, Real Madrid, the big one, the big game, the game I think of this round. I think the second best game was probably Atletico versus Man U, but that we don't get until Wednesday, February 23rd. Real Madrid, PSG. I think this is going to be just a clash of titans, where you get Messi, we get Mbappe, Neymar, and just that whole squad. On the other side, I don't know if we get Benzema tomorrow. And obviously, Real Madrid is almost limping into this matchup. They haven't looked as crisp in La Liga as well. And so they're coming in here not at their best. But these games definitely, I think, take out the best in Real Madrid. So I think they'll be more than ready. Now, the key for this game, for over 2 legs, is, I think, just the attention to detail on defense. When you look at the PSG, one of the things that is very important when you play against them is you have to play defense for 90 minutes, which can sound very simplistic, sound very stupid, because you're like, well, of course, the game is 90 minutes. But there are times within the game, depending on who you're playing, where you're able to slack off. You're able to make some mistakes. You're able to not be fully engaged for 90 minutes. And you cannot do that versus a few teams. PSG is one of them. And if you slack off and if there's a mental breakdown on defense, then they're going to make you pay. And so Militao, Alaba, and whoever else plays on defense, Carvajal, they are all going to have to be alert and ready to go constantly. I don't know if we get Mendy in this game. I don't know if we get Benzema in this game. If I'm Real Madrid, I do my best to not play Benzema in hopes that he's fully healthy for the second leg. If you're PSG, I think the key is going to be taking advantage of the mental lapses that you see from Real Madrid from time to time. On defense, I think they have to make Vinicius feel like a hero. Vinny has had a great season. Vinny plays well. Vinny is a game changer. But one of the things that Vinny does have still is this hero complex. And if you're able to get into the head of Vinny, if you're able to force him to be the hero, then I think we got something. And I think then it becomes very dangerous for Real Madrid to beat this team. Real Madrid's going to beat PSG by playing like a team, by moving the ball, controlling the middle, with their mate. I think the best centers and center midfielders in the entire world, and that's how they're going to win this game. And being able to move and score. I don't know if we see Hazard in this game. I don't know if we see Bale. He played over the weekend. I don't know, but the key is going to be the front dudes playing together, moving the ball and moving without the ball and creating opportunities against Navas and that defense and taking advantage of them. I think it's going to be an amazing showdown between two teams that are both have their eyes set on winning multiple trophies. And this begins here. We don't get Sergio Ramos, which as a Madridista makes me happy that I don't have to root against him, at least not in this leg. We'll see if he plays in the second leg. And we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. So that's what I think. I got Real Madrid, obviously. I think Real Madrid is going to win 1-0 tomorrow. And I think they're going to move on and win overall in the two legs. Man City, Bayern, Liverpool. That's what I'm going with. Those are my picks. That's the pod. So thank you for listening. This is German for the Arrows Up podcast. Until next time, a la Madrid.